Hey there, pilots. Today we're going to do an overview of the introductory missions. This is Mission 1, Convoy Attack. The scenario is a TA-30 Compass working with a wingman to engage an enemy convoy and destroy it. This mission is intended to introduce some of the fundamentals when flying a compass. We'll play through the mission and I'll show you some of the strategies and tactics to employ whenever you're using the compass in this mission. A lot of these principles are going to apply to multiplayer. It's a way to round yourself off a little bit better using what I believe to be one of the most flexible aircraft in the game. You get the compass very early, and it remains relevant very late into most matches. You will see these things flying around, and they remain a threat, competently flown. A compass can kill just about anything in the game. We'll go ahead and get started. Right now we're searching for the Convoy. The compass uses a distributed aperture camera system like all of the other aircraft. It's pretty average compared to what's available in the game. The most powerful distributed aperture is equipped to the Cricket and the Dark Reach bomber. I believe that the Alcyon also gets a similar performance. And it looks like the chat actually tells us we can detect ground vehicles at 6 kilometers in this thing. Alright, so this is our first opportunity to evaluate the convoy. In multiplayer, you never want to directly approach a convoy until you evaluate what type of threats you're dealing with. Now, the mission tells you this convoy will be lightly defended, but it doesn't tell you what light defense means. So the first thing I like to do is look for anti-aircraft platforms. Currently, this is just a straight convoy of fuel trucks with an LC-45 recon truck, and that means they don't have any relevant defenses against us. In these situations, you can actually use your guns to strafe a convoy to pretty good effect, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm going to circle around to the back of the convoy, line it up on the road, and I'm going to strafe it and see how many vehicles I can kill with the available ammo on board. We do have linchpin rockets, but I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate how you set up for a strafe. I use lag pips. If you use lead pips, all that's going to change is where your circle is positioned. I'm going to throttle down because when you're strafing like this, you don't really need a lot of airspeed. Now I want to get that MRAP first. Alright, now I'm in guns mode. Because of the distance that I've taken to the target, I'm going to approach nice and slow. The MRAP is the only vehicle available that can shoot back at us. This is a very awkward, very clumsy kind of thing to do. The compass is not that great at ground strafing, but you can see how difficult it can be. I know what I'm doing most of the time when I play this game, and the dynamics at play with that strafing run meant that I could not actually get a single one of my bullets to hit the truck. When you're flying in the Brawler and you're using its cannon, that cannon has a lot more splash damage and is more stable than the compass. Even though they're built for somewhat similar roles, the Brawler is more stable because it has longer, flatter wings. So we're going to set up and try again. I'm going to maintain a little bit more airspeed. We're going to try and get our reticle over the target. Short controlled bursts are going to be the order of the day most of the time. We'll come in and get this other fuel truck. Now there is a minimum aiming distance that you have available. That's why I skipped that tanker in the back. When you're ground strafing, don't hold the trigger down. There's no reason to hold the trigger down on a rotary cannon unless you are laying into a target that you're going to hit. Lightly armored targets like these, it only takes like 2 or 3 rounds to get a kill. So short controlled bursts remain the order of the day any time you are firing a machine gun, whether it's on the back of a truck or mounted to an airframe. We're going to come in and get this fuel truck. I'm using my rudder, a combination of my rudder and my pitch to control where my bullets are going here. And you can see my lag pips doing their job really well. The reason why I like lag pips over lead pips is that it forces you to look at where your bullets are landing. And that is, I think, a better habit to build, because if the targeting computer is doing you wrong and feeding you bad data, you're going to see that your bullets are missing and be able to adjust off of your lag pip to hit the target. This is a learned trait. It takes a lot of practice to get right. So we'll come in and grab these, the last of these tankers here. This is kind of a tough shot. I only had maybe a quarter of a second where I could have hit that fuel tanker, and I wasn't quite on target. When you're setting up for a gun run, you are committing to give the gun the solution that it needs, and it severely restricts the number of available positions you can take to secure the kill. When you're side on like this, sometimes you have to play with your rudder a little bit more, but the main thing you have to understand is when you're using your guns to strike a ground target, you are predictable. The other team, if they've got aircraft in the air, if they've got optical ground defenses, are going to understand what you're doing. An anvil and a spag are going to rip you apart. And anyone who's flying an aircraft that can launch missiles is going to know where they need to be to give that missile the best chance of being successful. You can see as we're strafing the convoy, I'm basically doing a bunch of S-turns. I'm coming up to the top of the hill here. I'm turning. I'm coming down on the convoy. As I come down on the convoy, I'm throttling down in order to keep my airspeed controlled and give myself more of an opportunity to strike the target. Once I get to where I'm not confident I can keep the reticle on a target, or to where I'm worried about hitting the ground, I throttle up, I pull away, I come up to the top of my climb here. I'm watching my angle of attack, trying not to stall too hard. I'm at full throttle, I sweep back down the hill. As I come down on the curve, I throttle down, select the next target, and you just rinse and repeat. Now that's a hard mode version of the mission to show you what guns look like. We'll do the shorter version of the mission. This is a very simple mission where you use your rockets. Rockets are the second most efficient when it comes to ammunition. You can carry a bunch of these on an aircraft. We got 14 as opposed to only having 6 AGM-48s. So I'll get my rockets selected. Now the major constraint you're going to face with rockets is that there is a limit to the number of targets your rockets will track. On the compass, I believe it's 1 laser designation per run. Now if you have an ally, that ally can also paint targets for you and increase the number of rockets that you can fire. But as you can see, we've only got 1 available target that we can strike. We can fire more than 1 rocket, but doing so just means that rocket is going to track the target indicated. We're taking a little bit of ground fire. We're going to veer away, and you can see, oh, he got a lucky shot and burned me down. This is mortal damage for the compass. If you're near an airfield, you might be able to try and get to ground, but now you guys can see how fire propagates through an airframe. Once you're on fire like this, your fire suppression system won't be able to do anything about it. You can see I'm taking increased amounts of damage. When you're like this, you can ride it in for a little while.
Right engine fire, left engine
So now
fire.
we're losing our engines. I'm still technically combat effective. I'm going to take a downward pitch. And in this situation, I'm just going to go ahead and select all of my available AGMs and rain hell down upon them. And then I'm going to follow up with a linchpin. And that combination of ordnance very quickly finished off the convoy. You still get a mission success. Now, within a couple more seconds, I would have needed to punch out. But it shows you how much faster you can kill a convoy with AGMs as opposed to rockets. Rockets take longer, guns take the longest, but gun ammunition is also the cheapest. So you're playing a trade-off with any mission set. The more guns you use, technically speaking, the more targets you can kill, but the harder you have to work to kill them. The more missiles you use, the fewer targets you can kill, but you can kill them more quickly. It costs more money to do. Rockets, kind of a similar story, except you're constrained by your laser designator. Now the compass, the FS-20 Vortex, I think the Revoker's in the same boat. They only have like 1 laser designator option available. But in something like a chicane, I think you have 3 or 4. And that means that you can launch clusters of 3 or 4 rockets at a time and independently track to kill 3 or 4 vehicles. So a chicane does a great job attacking convoys. Anyway, this is a short tutorial. We'll go ahead and call it here for the night. If you guys made it this far, you probably liked the video. Be sure to show it with a click in the right place, and I'll catch you all later.